Welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show with celebrity nutrition expert, fitness Hall of Famer, and four-time New York Times bestselling author, JJ Virgin. JJ is a warrior mom whose knowledge and expertise have helped change hundreds of thousands of lives with over 3.5 million podcast downloads and appearances on Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Rachel Ray, Larry King Live.
Whoa. This show is about you, not about me. I want to help you find practical, real-world ways to dial in your health and mindset so you can finally lose that weight and feel strong and energized. Stop settling for less than your personal best. It's time to find out how to look and feel better than ever. And I'll be right here with you the whole way. Hey, JJ here with a really great topic today. Today we're going to be talking about willpower. It doesn't work. That's what we'll be talking about. Willpower doesn't work. And I met this guy at, one event, then I saw him at another event, and very intriguing. Number one author on Medium since 2015. His name is Ben Hardy, and you're going to fall in love with him on this podcast when you hear more about him and who he is as a person. But I was intrigued at first. I didn't even know that till I interviewed him. What I was intrigued at first was his take on willpower. And as we're going through this interview, you're going to see that there's things that you can put into your life that can make weight loss automatic, getting healthy automatic. I always like, to remove the blocks and make things easy. And that's what this does. And it's super cool. So I'm really excited to have Ben Hardy with me today. He's got a new book, Willpower Doesn't Work, and he is finishing his Ph.D. right now in organizational psychology. Just an awesome human being. And you'll definitely want to check him out too on Medium. Again, he's the number one author on Medium and just a super fantastic guy. We have incredible show notes for today, and he's giving away a great gift. So you'll want to grab all that at jjvirgin.com/willpower. All right, Ben Hardy, welcome to the show. I am super excited to be talking about this topic with you.
Thanks, JJ. I'm glad to be here with you as well.
Well, I work in the world of weight loss, and I can't think of a bigger place for willpower to be an issue than in weight loss, right? So I know you talk about willpower in a lot of different settings, but let's just kind of dive into how did you get interested in willpower in the first place?
Yeah, so when I started to pursue PhD programs in psychology, I actually wanted to study under Roy Baumeister, who wrote the New York Times bestselling book called Willpower. And all of his research was on willpower. And I decided to go a different direction with my study in psychology. But there's a few hugely pivotal events that kind of have changed my perspective. One was that I grew up in a really rough environment. My father was a meth addict. He became intensely addicted after my parents got divorced. And he's since changed his life. But during my high school years and things like that, his house and his environment was very just a terrible place to be. And my mom at the time was kind of a workaholic. She had really good intentions, but she was trying to run a company. And so really I lacked all stability throughout high school. I barely graduated high school, found myself at 19 years old, a year after high school, living at my cousin's house, playing 12 hours of World of Warcraft a day. My diet consisted of Mountain Dew and Little Caesars pizza. And I kind of stepped back and said, how the freak did I get here? And I started running actually because my cousin invited me to go running with him. So I continued to play World of Warcraft all the time, but I started doing a little bit of running and he quickly quit. And during those runs, when I was kind of allowing myself to think I was outside of my house, my environment, all those triggers, I started to kind of be honest with myself and think about how life happened to me and all the traumatic experiences I had. I had a lot of really rough experiences, as probably a lot of your audience has had. And I decided that I needed to go away and kind of restart and figure things out. And so I decided to serve a humanitarian mission across the country. And it was like a light switch flipped. Like immediately, I was able to be a different person. I was able to make different decisions. And I ultimately went on to become one of the more productive missionaries kind of in that mission. And during that time, I read tons of books. I ended up filling stacks of journals and came back a different person. But realized it was kind of shocking when I came back because everything was still the same when I came back. The people were still the same. They talked the same. I realized all my attachments with these people were based on the person I was before. And I had no way of relating to them with the person I had become. And so I decided to go to school, to different school than all of my high school friends and to pursue psychology. So that was one experience where I realized that who I was radically determined by the environment, the situation I was in, and the role I was playing. And that my options, my ability was very different. The other more recent experience was becoming a foster parent. My wife and I have been foster parents of 3 kids for 3 years. They're siblings, and we actually just adopted them about 3 weeks ago. But what's insane is when you get these 3 kids from a really, really bad environment. These kids had been neglected. They were all over a year behind in school. Our 5-year-old girl, when we got her, she would throw tantrums, break stuff, throw stuff, just angry and vicious. And so it was clear that, these people came from a different environment than we had. And, it took an enormous amount to, change them and change ourselves so that we could be patient and loving and compassionate and caring. And obviously over 3 years, they've changed. We've changed a lot. They're in Montessori school. They actually, get healthy, clean food. During 2017, we went completely refined, sugar-free as a family.
Yay!
Yeah, totally. And I know that and trust me, I've listened to your interview with Joe Polish on that subject, and it actually blew me away. Your interview on that subject was very profound to me.
Oh.
No, it was. I'm
getting blown away right now by you. I got to tell you. I'm, the courage to adopt these. I liked you before, but now I'm like, super. This is incredible. And I'm just thinking about your story of like understanding how your environment didn't change, but you did. And like now with these kids coming in, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Okay.
No, I appreciate it. I'm winding this up, but there's a big, economic study called the Equality of Opportunities by 2 Harvard economists. And basically what they did is they studied a person's potential for economic mobility, for a person's, their potential to actually increase their economic standing and situation. And a person's ability to upgrade their economic situation is largely dependent on the county they live in, not just the state, but the county. And the county that our kids came from in South Carolina is in the 9th percentile. So basically what it means is if these kids had stayed in the county they lived in, their chances of improving their economic situation is basically 0. The county I came from was in the 91st percentile, meaning that if you're born in poverty in that situation, your chances of becoming better off financially are a lot better. But anyways, I realized how powerful environment is. And as a psychologist, most psychologists, if you talk to them about willpower, they're like, willpower is the last thing you should depend on because it's such a finite resource. And if you study addiction, addiction researchers will say that if you're going to spend willpower to try to overcome an addiction, it's actually going to just make the addiction worse because willpower is a very individualistic thing. It's trying to do it by yourself. It's isolating. It's not focused on the group. And there's a really good TED Talk called The Opposite, or the TED Talk is all about, it's called Everything We Know About Addiction is Wrong. And basically what it talks about is that the opposite of addiction is connection. You have to change through vulnerability and through relationships, through connections, obviously through your environment, through getting information like this. It's why your podcast is great, is because you're changing people's environments by giving them new information. And so just to kind of wrap this up, I realized that no amount of willpower could have provided our kids the opportunities they have if they were still in a situation where they were given cough syrup to go to bed, where they were not taken to school, where they were given food from like a package all day, every day, where just they were sitting in front of a TV all day. Like these kids, their potential was influenced dramatically by their situation. And so the book is really all about the power of environment, that your environment shapes you, and that obviously we can make choices, but the most profound choices we can make is to choose what environments influence us, the foods we put in our body, the information we consume, the people we surround ourselves with. And that if you do not proactively change your environment, then you're going to reactively be shaped by it. So that's kind of the essence of what the book is. And that's kind of some of the core experiences that led me to writing that book.
Wow. It's at 30 years old, I moved in with a gal who was my mentor. And that's the biggest thing she taught me, was to tightly, fiercely control my environment. And the biggest part of my environment I controlled were the people I interacted with and what I read and listened to. And honestly, that saved my son when he was in the hospital, was not listening to the people who were like, oh, he's never going to wake up, blah, blah. Yeah, I just was like, and it's interesting because I have a mother who's very much the glass is half full type of person, or the glass is half empty. So what do we do? How do you create this type of environment? So let's say someone's like, look at the kids that you adopted. And you growing up in this environment, it was a big thing for you to shift out of that environment. How does someone do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
And is this really the key then? If you want to change your life, you've got to first start, instead of thinking willpower, you have to first start with what my environment is making me behave this way. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that, in Western culture, we tend to disconnect ourselves with our environment. We don't think that we are a part of our environment and that we are two parts of the same whole, that who you are in one situation is actually fundamentally different than who you are in a different situation. And so I think that the first step is being mindful. Mindfulness is obviously becoming a popular topic, but the definition in psychological terms is that it's an awareness of context and awareness of how that context is influencing you. And if you're truly mindful, you'll realize that you can actually create the contexts that you're in. And when you believe you can do that, and when you know you can do that, then you can actually believe that you can change. And so it's not having a fixed mindset. It's more having a growth mindset and realizing that you're fluid. And I know that you've talked a lot about epigenetics and about how, your genes and stuff like that. I talk about epigenetics and willpower doesn't work, that at the cellular level, your biological expression is the influence of the environments that turn on and off the genes. And so, at a biological level, at a psychological level, at an identity level, who you are is based on your situation. And so I think that mindful realization is kind of the first key. There's a quote from Marshall Goldsmith. He wrote the book Triggers, and he basically said, if we do not create and control our environment creates and controls us. So step one is just mindfulness that you are being shaped by your environment, that your choices are influenced by your environment, and that if you want to make better choices, you've got to start controlling the environment. Obviously, the first easy step is just avoidance of trying to use willpower. So removing things. Like when my wife and we went a year sugar-free last year, first and easy step was just literally take all the sugar out of our house. And then we can...
I know, isn't it so obvious to people? I tell people, I go, if you, you can't put, I know me, if I had mocha chocolate chip ice cream in the freezer at 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to go eat it. I mean, it's just I'm going to, or if I had popcorn, so why do that to yourself? Why try to put yourself in that situation? If willpower worked, we wouldn't be here as a people group, right? We're hardwired to go seek those things out. Why try to overcome your biology there? It doesn't make any sense. It's just mean at the core level.
It's very mean. I mean, it's willpower. So I was talking to Dan Sullivan, and I was telling him about the title of my book, Willpower Doesn't Work. And he said, well, actually willpower does work, but it works at the expense of everything else. And so if you're willing to go there, if you're going to put yourself through that torture, you're going to ruin everything else in your life. But yeah, so step one is just literally remove the stuff. Why put yourself through the torture of having to make the decision? Clayton Christensen, he's a Harvard business professor. He says that 100% commitment is easier than 98% commitment, because if you're 98% committed, that means you leave everything up to the situation you're in. Every situation you're in, you have to make a decision. So it's if you're 98% committed, usually that means you haven't quite made the decision. And if you're indecisive, you're screwed. And so
you left yourself out.
Well, basically what you did was you left it up to the situation rather than deciding how you would act in the situation. And so Michael Jordan, he says that once I made a decision, I never thought about it again. So basically how I've broken it down is that willpower is the product of like basically four things. One is that you haven't made a decision, and so you actually aren't yet sure what you're going to do. And another word for willpower is decision fatigue. It happens when you have to make a lot of decisions. And there's a book called The Paradox of Choice, meaning when you have too many decisions, you end up not making any. And so if you just make one choice that you're going to do something, whether it's be sugar-free or that you're going to quit smoking, like obviously you've got to put a lot of external things in place. But step one is you actually have to make a decision. Step two, you have to get clear on the why of the decision. If your why is compelling, you'll figure out how. Step three is you need to start becoming invested financially in the decision. So if you actually start investing money in good food and in a personal trainer and a gym membership, if you start actually buying books like JJ's, if you start investing your time, but money is a really big thing. And interestingly, like it's not just psychological. Like I've spent my whole PhD studying the difference between wannabe entrepreneurs and actual entrepreneurs. And the change that happens when someone goes from wanting to do something to actually believing they are that thing is when they start investing money in it. Like when you start investing dollars in something, you become really committed to it and you start wrapping your identity around it. And I would say probably if someone hasn't made a shift yet where they just see themselves as a type of person, because once you have an identity shift, once you see yourself as a healthy person that doesn't eat sugar, then it's not as hard to kind of battle against yourself because your identity is different.
I've always felt like the best thing you could do for someone is charge them slightly more than what they feel they can afford.
It's true.
Right? Because then they take it seriously.
Well, what's crazy is if you read The Alchemist, which is a totally spiritual book, one of the things they talk about, that Paulo Coelho talks about in The Alchemist is that, if you've read the book, the little boy who's like the shepherd boy, he meets, the king, the African king, Melchizedek. And the king requires him to pay like 6 of his sheep, 1/10. And then he tells the boy exactly what he already knows he needs to do. He needs to go to the pyramids to find his treasure. And the kid said, why did I need to give you 10% of my money to do this? And he said, I made you give me those things so that it would help you make the decision. And so I think that one of the most powerful, whether it be spiritual or whether it be psychological or behavioral, one of the most powerful ways to make a decision, make a commitment, is by investing money in that thing. And that's what I found to be true. And I talk a lot about that in Willpower Doesn't Work, about how to invest money to put yourself in environments. I mean, I've met you because we've both invest in our relationships, in our self-improvement, in our network. And so we've met, through multiple networks because we invest money in our relationships and in our environments. And that's one of the fastest ways to change your environment, is to actually, invest money in yourself, your skills, and your relationships. That's a very fast and powerful way to change your environment. And then the third one, the fourth one, which we've already talked about, is just literally you have to remove everything from your environment that conflicts with your commitment. If you actually make a decision and you have a powerful why behind it and you start investing in that decision, then you have to remove everything in your environment that conflicts with that commitment, because commitment can't just be an internal battle. You have to actually build external defense systems around your goal. So those are some of the reasons why people have, that's kind of why willpower exists, and it's how you eliminate it.
I love everything you're saying, because I've said these things intuitively. I've never studied this, but I mean, obviously as a weight loss coach, I went, well, if the food's in the house, you'll eat it. Get the crappy food out and the other side of it is put the good food in. We had one gal when I was on Dr. Phil who took all the bad food out and didn't bring the good food in. So then she would at midnight.
Yeah, there was a void, right?
Right? Yeah, it doesn't, like, nature hates a vacuum. I was like, well, you got to actually bring in like the good stuff too. You can't just take the bad stuff out. But the other side I say there, and it's interesting when you look at the research shows that weight loss or obesity is contagious.
Totally.
And right. And so you think about, and people ask me after they've lost the weight, how do they keep it off? I go, you just find fitter friends.
Yeah. It's that true.
So
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Your brain just reshapes itself, and so does your biology.
Then the other part is like the people who invest. And again, it's not the amount, it's the amount that's a stretch for them. It's the amount. I had a client who once told me that, or a mentor that told me, you commit with your wallet. And I'm like, it is so true. When you invest something that's a stretch for you, both in your time and your money, it changes everything. You take it seriously. Then you surround yourself with people who are, who are on the same path. And especially if they're further ahead, that's even better. and you make your environment totally set up. Like I knew I wanted to make sure I was getting my burst training in every day, so I brought my exerciser in where I trip over it so that it would just be there. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who talks about all the different.
Is that BJ Fogg?
No, not BJ, but
what you just described resonates so deeply with his research about eliminating willpower, about setting up conditions. He says it's design over willpower. If you have resistance to flossing your teeth, literally just take it out of the little box and just put a strip of floss on your counter. And like that's what you just said you did. You eliminate the choice. You walk over your workout machine.
Yeah, that's where I put, people are like, I can't remember to take my supplements. I said, put them on your toothbrush.
Yeah, like literally put them in your coffee cup, whatever it is.
That's like what you need to do. No, I'm trying to remember. It's the guy who wrote Mindless Eating. And what he found is that if you had Hershey's Kisses sitting on your desk, you'd eat 6 of them. If you took them off your desk and moved them over to another desk, you'd eat 2 of them if you had to actually get up. If you covered them, you ate none of them. So I was like, well, there you go. I mean, he had all of these strategies from shrinking your plates and your cups.
Oh, yeah. I've actually read that book. It's shocking. Even where you sit in a restaurant, if you sit by the bar, you're more likely to drink. If you sit by a window, you're more likely to eat a salad. It's strange, right?
It's awesome. And so you look at all this stuff that you could just build in for success. And yet we make it so hard on ourselves. Again, I look at it and I think the people who say, but I have to have food for my kids. And I'm like, all right, well, do you like your kids? Because I'm not sure why you feel like you need to feed your kids so they should have chips, candy, and ice cream. Like, why are you doing that to them?
Well, I know you're going to force them to have to figure it out on their own. And, there's a lot of research that talks about how if adults have unhealthy relationships with their technology, like their smartphones, then their kids, it's almost impossible for their kids to develop a healthy relationship with technology because, your children mimic you, and so if you're letting them have, unhealthy food, then you're telling them that that's fine, and how are they going to overcome that? They're going to have to separate themselves from you because you're going to be the conflict for them actually becoming healthy because you've set this expectation that it's all right.
Yeah, it's always amazing to me when I hear, someone smoking and I go, well, do you want your kids to smoke? Oh, no, they won't smoke. I'm like, of course they'll smoke. Like, of course they will. Like, of course they're going to eat crap. Of course they're not going to work out. Look at you. They're going to do what you do, not what you say. So if the motivation to make these shifts isn't enough on your own, like do it for your family. That's the next part, and build a bigger why for yourself on it. So I want to jump over to the cool freebie gift you're giving everybody, the journaling routine. Talk us through what you've got for everybody.
Totally. So there's actually a couple chapters in Willpower Doesn't Work all about the power of clarity and the need for that. And journaling is something that a lot of people do, obviously, first thing in the morning to kind of tap into their subconscious breakthroughs, because your subconscious is always working even while you're asleep. And anyways, what I have found, and I've been journaling for over a decade now, is that where you journal is just as important as when you journal. And so one of the chapters in the book is all about first off, stepping out of your routine environment regularly, because, when you're in your routine environment, you're in the middle of the forest. You can't step out and see it for the trees. You've got like the worm's eye view, but sometimes you need to step out and have the bird's eye view. And so, most people, they'll get their biggest ahas, their clarity, like when they're on vacation. That's why people talk about sabbaticals, mini retirements, free days. So basically one of the chapters is all about getting yourself out of your routine environment regularly, getting clarity through writing in your journal. And then obviously you need a daily environment, and I would call it having like a sacred space where you go and you can just write in your journal. When you write about your goals, you write about your aspirations. A lot of it's very affirmative, affirmation style, but just writing down what you need to do. Journaling is found, obviously gratitude journaling is powerful, but even just journaling about your problems, people have, a lot of research has found that it's almost just as powerful, if not just as powerful, as having a therapy session. You can have a lot of suppressed emotion come out when you just journal it out. And when you just start writing, you can start getting clear. And so for me, first thing I do in the morning is just wake up and get in my car. I leave kind of the all the stuff in my environment at my house, because there's plenty of distractions and things like that. I just get in my car, drive across the street into a parking lot, and I just journal, And so what the journaling course is that JJ is going to give you, that is something I created, is it's all about how to use your journal to literally reshape your subconscious patterns, to achieve your goals and to get clear on all levels. And then to obviously live proactively, to put yourself into a peak state, first thing in the morning, so that you can operate proactively rather than reactively. First thing most people do in the morning is look at their smartphone. They are literally living reactively to their environment. And so what you need to do is you have to set up this morning where you can put yourself into a proactive and peak state so that you can be who you want to be. And so the journaling course is a deep dive into how to do that, how to shape your environment, so there's probably like 3 or 4 hours of content.
So one of the first things that mentor I talked about earlier had me do, as she was helping me create my environment, was journal every day. It's been something that I've done forever since. And I always have a stash of journals ready to go. So I'm completely on board with that. And I love that you've put some structure around the things I've been kind of dropping into my work all along. So this will be fantastic. So I'm going to encourage everybody. This is definitely a book you want to pick up. Willpower Doesn't Work. And we will have all that in the show notes, along with this course that you are giving everyone around journaling. And that will all be at jjvirgin.com/willpower. And Ben, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. I super appreciate it. And I just absolutely applaud everything that you're doing with your kids as well. It's just
JJ,
incredible.
I'm a huge fan of yours, and it's really cool for me to be on your show. And thank you for everything.
I appreciate you. Alrighty, now everybody stay with me. After the break, we'll be answering a listener's question.
Ready to lose fat fast and keep it off forever? Discover the #1 resource for fast and lasting fat loss by visiting jjvirgin.com. Access exclusive videos, content-rich blog posts, and lots of free resources to help you lose weight and feel better fast, and be part of a community. Get ready to transform your life one simple shift at a time by visiting www.jjvirgin.com. Welcome
back. This is the time where we answer a listener's question. And today's question is just perfection. I had to do it. Showed up on my Instagram Live the other day, and it's Joanne from Carmel. And first of all, like when I think of Carmel, California, it's like bakery heaven. So this question will make sense. She goes, JJ, I can give up the gluten, I can give up the dairy, but I can't seem to quit the sugar. Help. And again, I think of Carmel, and Carmel's like, sweets capital. So that comes into play, because if you're listening to what just happened with Ben, he talks about controlling your environment. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you live around all that candy. Here's the big thing. I wrote the Sugar Impact Diet to help you reclaim your sugar sweet sensitivity so that you lose your sweet tooth forever. Okay. But it's something that you don't do overnight, you do over time. But one of the first things you're going to want to do is check out your environment. Get the enemy out of the house. That is one of the things I've taught in all my programs, is get the enemy out of the house, get rid of the ice cream, the candy, all those things that tempt you. I don't have those in my house because I don't have willpower. I don't never believed in it. I think that's just mean. So first thing you want to do is pull those things out of the house. And then I want you to grab yourself a copy of the Sugar Impact Diet. We'll put the quick start guide in the show notes too. And I want you to start tapering down. First, be aware of where all the sugar's sneaking in, because you're probably not even aware of it. And what's that doing is it's keeping your sweet tooth turned on. So you want more and more and more sweet. So we want to shut down your sweet tooth and get rid of those cravings. So the first step is to get it out of the house and to lower your sugar impact. So you take the sneaky sugar inventory and you lower it down. And then make sure you're getting enough healthy protein, optimal, clean protein, healthy fats, loads of non-starchy vegetables, and low carbs at your meals So you've got good blood sugar balanced. Again, I walk through all of this in the Sugar Impact Diet, but you can get rid of that sweet tooth and you can get rid of it for life. Honestly, when you get through this, things will just taste too sweet to you, which is awesome. All right, Joanne, I want to hear how this goes for you. And I want to do a shout out to Radiant Life, who gave a 5-star review, says trusted advice is the subject line. And he or she says, I count on JJ to provide the latest and greatest nutritional and optimal lifestyle advice. Thank you. The guests she interviews really know their stuff and give great value on her show. Thank you, JJ, for guidance on solid new science and affirmation of what I'm already doing right. By the way, I love your sleep candy, as it provides that extra natural sleep aid to help me get my Z's. Well, thank you for that. I actually made sleep candy for me. I call these products, I end up making for me, and then we get so many people using them around my family and friends that we end up making them. So sleep candy was one that we all were a big fan of. So I'm glad that you love it too. Literally, my husband and I don't go to sleep without it. We take it every single night, and keeps me asleep, because sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and that is just a rotten experience. So this is what helps me stay asleep. And so if you're needing any help falling asleep or staying asleep, sleep candy give sleep candy a try. It's your ticket. All right. I will see you next time. Oh, and if you want to be featured on my podcast, either with a question, jump on my Facebook or Instagram feeds. That's where we check out and pull questions from. Or if you want to be featured as one of the reviews, please, please, please leave a review. Leave a review. Yes, we love it so much when you do, over on iTunes. All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
That's all for this episode of the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, which marks another step towards a healthier body and mind. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week.